Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining today. I know that it's late and in some cases tomorrow in some places, so appreciate everybody taking some time out of their schedule to join us today. And this is really exciting. We're really appreciative of having you there. We have a couple of newcomers here, so I'm going to give just a really quick commercial about who Ponga is, what we are, why we're here, etc. We've organized ourselves around essentially becoming a digital storytelling service. We have an architecture and a platform that's designed to help people in 3 domains of functionality, essentially use photographs as a mechanism of telling stories and sharing their family histories across generations, across families, across geographies, etc. Because we fundamentally believe that photographs are fantastic artifacts, many of which we took, many of which we inherited, and many of which we found. And we don't always know the stories behind them. And we think that unlocking the stories is really what gives us an understanding of the color of the people, the events, the organizations, the processes, all of the stuff that's hidden inside of those images, and gives us a sense to really understand who we are, where we come from, the nature of our relationships, funny anecdotes and stories about those people that we may have lost, or maybe in some cases we never even knew. So we have 3 domains of functionality to help you use this process effectively. The first is we help you organize your photos. We ingest your digital artifacts, your digital images, your digital photos, and we help them organize. We use machine learning and different types of recognition technologies to organize them so we can take the first step at making your job easier, frictionless, and more fun. And we do that by recognizing facial geometries and organizing all of your photos by the instances of faces in those photos and placing them in folders to make it easy as a jumping off point for you to very quickly get to the fun part, which is the second part of this activity, which is really around the curation of the information that's associated with these images and the storytelling that accompanies them. So it's kind of a multimedia capability where you can add artifacts of any sort to a digital image, whether they be voice, text, data, links to third-party services, maps, any kind of multimedia capability. We can add that to the photograph and have that attach itself to that photo and follow it around for its digital life inside of Ponga. And then the third domain is all around what really could be the most important part, which is we all love having these photos and we all love having the stories associated with these photos, but so they don't become a digital coffee table book, which winds up sticking where it fell. We really think the value of these things is when you put them back in circulation. And the idea is, how do we share these stories with our family and friends? Not only so they can enjoy the stories and the histories and all of the information that we put in there, but maybe more importantly, it allows us to crowdsource other points of view about the same things. We've always had circumstances where we've been at family events, be they weddings, maybe we went to the same high schools together, and yet when you talk to us about those shared experiences, we frequently will tell very different stories because we have very different points of view and maybe a very different outlook on that. We want to be able to allow you to crowdsource that 360-degree perspective so you can add that to the stories and therefore enrichen them and make them really a deep fabric of each of those images that they're utilizing in Ponga. So with that, today, one of the things that we do at these events generally is talk a lot about best practices, different ways to use the service, etc. And so we have got a special guest today to talk about her experiences in terms of how she's using the service, not only to tell her own story around her photographs, but also how she's using them as a professional photo organizer on behalf of her clients. And we'll talk about that in a second. In the meantime, a couple of rules of the road. Generally speaking, we make these events highly interactive for those of you who have joined us before. Put your hand up, interrupt, just throw stuff in there, etc. With this big of a group, what I'd like to do is ask you all to stay on mute and then use the chat window. Everybody who is familiar with using Zoom and any of these conference services can obviously see, we've got a pretty good chat set of links going on right now. I'll kind of be your moderator for the rest of the activity, so toss questions in there, and I'll make sure that they get highlighted for our special guest and Barb to address. Any questions about that? Terrific. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Barb to introduce our special guest and kick off the rest of the event.
Sure. Thank you so much, Cameron. And it's really a delight to see you all here today. I'm starting to recognize so many names and appreciate your coming in and exploring Ponga and getting to know us. I'm Barbara Tien. I'm here with Cameron, one of the four co-founders here at Ponga, and I sometimes go by the alter ego Audie, in case you haven't figured that out. Um, I got to know Kathy here, but gosh, I think it was at Roots Tech back in February, just starting to explore what we were up to with Ponga. We began conversations back then, and she graciously started joining several of these Zoomin sessions that we had at Roots Tech, and since then, and has come on board in using Ponga and bringing to us her real depth of perspective and experience as a professional photo organizer and working with a particularly large project that I think many of you who know her will already know about as well. That experience with specific physical artifacts is something that is very new to DIYers who are looking to Ponga to organize their pictures for them, only beginning to understand the scope of what all of these kinds of things can do. As Cameron was describing, we try to get past that I don't know what this all is. This is all so overwhelming part with the way we organize photos for you by person. But that's only a piece of the story. In fact, it is about the story. When you get in there and you know who's in the picture, then you can really get into the stories. So it's on the topic of stories that we've really bonded with Kathy. And we were so excited by her kind, gracious acceptance of the offer to come and speak with us as our guest to tell those stories, and now how she's using Ponga to dive into the stories in her own collection and reflect for so many of you with that professional photo organizing background, how those things work together. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thanks, Barbara. Well, I think you've forgotten where we actually met. Is we did meet at formally at Roots Tech is when we figured out what our real names were. But I've been following Ponga Pictures on
Oh, of course.
Instagram for I don't know how long you've had that account, but what attracted me to it was a similar interest in looking at old photos and trying to figure out what were they of, when were they taken, what is the story behind that. And I think that's what initially attracted me. I actually, until right before Roots Tech, I had no idea they were developing it. Cameron and Barbara were developing this software. So I was quite excited when I was able to join them, I think on one of their very first Zooms at Roots Tech sessions. And then to listen to the other people who were diving into this and to what it offered. And it, for me, it seemed to be a tool that filled a gap that I was looking for both personally and also professionally as a photo manager. And I was like, I think I found the perfect tool that gets at what's really important to me. And as Barbara likes to say, I'm decades, when she first typed that I have decades of experience, I went, I think that's a little exaggeration. Then I went back and figured out, actually, I think I do. I started off helping people make printed photo albums, traditional photo albums. And one of the key things there is always the stories. We tried to get people to write the stories and to tell the stories behind the pictures and the stories that went with the photos. And I did that for a number of years. And again, never did my own because I was busy teaching other people to do it. And I discovered that for a lot of people, they couldn't take that step. That's kind of the end step if you want to go that far. It isn't the place to start because if you've got no organization, you don't have, and now because decades ago we didn't deal with digital, now you have the capability to digitize anywhere now. Before then, I'm sure you could digitize stuff, but it was not some mainstream activity for people to digitize old photos, to be able to share them and in that manner. And so I thought, well, I heard about photo organizing and I went, oh, that sounds like what I need to do instead. So I shifted my business to focus on photo organizing, and I joined what is now the Photo Managers. We had a different name back then in 2012, and started working with them in and training and learning what to do. So essentially what a photo manager does is we do everything we take your photos and we organize them, we scan them, We add, create searchable databases by adding metadata to your photos. We do archival storage. So we do all that for you if you want, or any piece of it. So some people, it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. And like the old expression, the shoemaker's children, my photos have not got done. I'm currently working, my twins will be 25 in September, and I'm working on their, they're two. I think I'm up to two. I think I just finished birthday number 2. And I'm like, got to get on that project too. But also I've become, and I think maybe many people are experiencing this, I've connected with Ponga users, that as we reach a certain point in our lives, we start getting all the family photos. Our parents pass away and we're left, we have to go collect the photos, or family members who know we have an interest in this start sending us all the photos. And we end up with this big collection of photos, and we're losing the stories behind those photos. And what first attracted me, I think, to Ponga is the fact that it's story focused. The focus of this, and with the story focus, that's become sort of circling through. We get a lot of training on how to be photo managers. We learn a whole bunch about the digitization and all the technical parts of it. But ultimately, in the end, for me, and I think for a lot of people, particularly here, it's all about the story, because this photo is the basis. Barb said this the other day, the photo is the foundation of the story. So that appeals to me in both my professional life and my personal life. And I am going to show you my personal stuff in a moment, which is what maybe some of you actually came to hear the stories that we had on there. But for professionally, the only thing we really can't do as photo managers or photo organizers, we can't tell your stories because we don't know what your stories are. We still need some way for our clients to tell those stories and get those stories told. So that's what appealed to me as giving me an easy tool to get those stories told where I need the client to do that. What do I love about Ponga? So many things. The collaboration. This is the perfect tool, and there's some, I don't think she's here. There's a lady who's actually using Ponga to crowdsource information on, and if it's you, Anna, I apologize, on her, Barbara can hop in and help me out here. Her family, somebody in her family was in some military unit in the US, and she has tons of pictures of all these soldiers, but she doesn't know who they are. And so she's actually crowdsourcing the stories behind there. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you suddenly got like a message from somebody who said, I think, or you were looking at a Facebook group and it said, I think that might be my grandfather. And you got a picture, like an old photo, because sometimes they're not that plentiful. In my family, they're not. Some people have a lot of photos. Personally, we don't. So the tool to collaborate and crowdsource. So during the process, personally, I'm going to use it for my family. All of the generation above me are all gone. So we don't have the people who lived through the stories. We don't have them anymore to ask. We don't have them to tell their stories anymore. All we have right now is for those for us who are getting on in years too, to tell what we remember being told. And that, I think, is so important. And this gives an easy, simple way with the ability to crowdsource or collaborate to gather those stories from family members to get the stories written down. And ours are all going to mostly be what we remember being told. Like, we're talking third hand, but it's better than no stories, and to uncover the history behind the photos. I think that was something else that Barb said to me the other day that struck me, was that our stories for our own photos connect to the history. That's how we tell history. History is all about stories, and we're sharing pieces of history where they crossed our lives. How cool is that? That's why I love this, and I love the Ponga group too. So the collaboration is one of the things I love. I'm not going to talk about the whole technical part. That I leave that up to because I've only been following this since February. So I leave that up to Barb and Cameron to answer, and they're very good at that. But the facial recognition, great tool. It's a really good tool for organizing, because that's normal. You can as you build your database, it makes it easier, and you're not typing everybody's names over and over and over in the photo description. It's a great time saver. The features, I don't know if I should, I don't know, I wrote down show my screen, but maybe I should show it already. But some of the things you can add to stories is something else that really appealed to me that I haven't been able to find a single way to do this. But in addition to the photo, you could put your photo in, you could type a story, which is like typing in a description on a photo, but you can record a story. There's a little microphone there. You can click on the microphone and record your story. Just tell the story in your own words. What a benefit of that is for two reasons. From a professional standpoint, I've got a lot of photos with a lot of stories that need to be told from a couple clients. And it always seems to be like either I sit down and interview them, which takes forever, and then I still need to do something afterwards with the recordings. And I need some way to show them the pictures. And I'm talking with my one client, we're like in the, I don't know, we have like 60,000 photos, not counting documents. So to sit with her and go through all those photos would be a little taxing on me, and to get her to tell the stories. And also, if I just say, well, tell me a story about such and such a time, my client's in her 80s, her memory is fading, and I'm putting her on the spot. Whereas if I showed her a picture, she'll either go, yeah, I don't know, that's so-and-so, and then I know she doesn't know the story, or it launches her into a story. Because since I started working on my own, I'm like, the stories are just flying around in my head. I'm like, oh, I should get up in the middle of the night and type them into Ponga before I forget. Because it's a good a trigger. As we said, the photo is the foundation for all the stories. So from a point of using it for my client, I'll be able to get her set up. She'll probably need her daughter or son, somebody to help her, grandson, those would be good people too, to get her onto the screen where she can look at a photo, but then all they do is hit the record button, and I've got the story attached to the picture, and I don't have to do anything else, which is really cool. From a personal point of view, a lot of my cousins have developed this habit. They'll share a photo on Facebook, and then everybody starts typing memories they have. And I'm like, oh, can we quit doing that? Because A, it's hard to get stuff off there, and B, it's hard to find it again because they'll randomly share it to their pages. And I don't have time to copy all that stuff down. And the pictures are terrible, the quality of the picture. So to me, being able to share this with them and have them just fire out a quick story about a picture, I think that's going to speed up the gathering. One of my family member tried years and years ago. She sent us all letters, because this was in the letter writing days, and said, you know, I've been looking, she's been doing family history work and wanted to get all of our memories and stories. Well, one of my aunts thankfully had been writing memories down, and she sent her a document, which we have, but nobody else really sent her much. She didn't get much from that because it meant work. It meant, well, but this easy to get that information in.
Like, it's too hard for me to write.
I think that's Lisa's son. I'm going to take a wild guess. You can add to, in addition to recording stories, you can add, so you get the audio, you can add the description like everything else. You can add links to other external locations. So you can link to other pictures. You can link to, I've been linking to, you'll see when we look in my pictures, I've linked to places that explain the term I'm talking about. So I don't have to write a big, huge paragraph or copy a document. And I'll use the example, my grandparents came under the British Settlement Act of 1922. So I just link to it. It's on one of the Canadian government sites, probably not going to go away, but it saves me trying to get that downloaded, create a file, put it with the picture. In another program, it won't be able to go with the picture. It's going to be another file. Instead of getting all these files, it's just right there. Somebody who wants to know more about it, read the act itself, can go and do that. But the data, the information is there. So that to me, it's all that stuff that goes around the story that makes it fascinating. You can add the provenance of the photo. Where'd the photo come from? Did you get it offline? If you could add photos that belong to other links to other family members' photos, and say, okay, this photo is in so-and-so's collection. If you don't happen to be fortunate enough to have the entire family pile of photos in your room here. So you can indicate the provenance of it. If it's something that if you've linked to something that came from somewhere else, you can, where did it come from? Because that's important too. I was playing around with it with loading links to the actual location of the farm, like a map that shows where the farm was when my grandparents came over. So there's all those things that you can do with it. And I'm gonna go for the sharing the screen, Barb. Or do you have anybody have questions, Cameron? Any screens? So I started doing this. We were originally planning this Ponga session. I don't even recall. I don't know if we were going to talk about advice for scanning and organizing originally. And then I thought, it would probably behoove me to have some actual photos in Ponga. So I did all this last Saturday. So that's how easy it is. And part of it was I decided that I'm a perfectionist. I think perfectionists are tough to organizing, and probably even to organizing your own family's photos. But what I decided was, if I wait until every single photo is scanned properly, if I wait until every single bit of history is added and scanned and ready to go, this isn't going to get done. And so I thought, let's see what we can accomplish in a day. So I set up this an album, and I picked a time period because it had a firm date. It wasn't like trying to start over with the ancestors. That'll come later, but I thought, let's pick something that I know we have pictures of and that we have a firm date for it to start. So what I picked was when my what I called the farm years, or when my family immigrated. Hang on, I got to get my Zoom thing off here so I can see this. So this is a picture. I did not take this. Nobody took this. So my grandparents came to Canada in 1929 on this ship called the Scythia. It's a Cunard White Star ship that was refitted. It had a long history of, it was a troop transport ship at different times later on, but it was referred to as one of the immigrant ships during this time period. So they came to Canada on this ship. And this is a picture that I downloaded because I mentioned to Barb that when I started doing this, I was trying to find a good picture of it to link and to use. And I ended up on eBay. So I'm waiting for the 6 postcards of the ship I bought to scan and put in here, because they were immigrants. They were leaving England because my granddad was a coal miner, and he didn't want to. If we have records of the number of people who died in the coal mines all the time in England, and he always dreamt of being a farmer. And so I don't have pictures of the ship. They didn't have a lot of money. I don't have pictures of them family standing on the dock, waving at them, saying goodbye. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to use the internet. So what you can do in Ponga, if you see this box, this outline here, you select a portion of the photo, and I just arbitrarily picked this chunk of it. And then you open up a panel where you can start adding stories to it. So this picture I've actually purchased, but it talks about the immigrant ships. So it's a link to where the immigrant ships are. And if I click on it, it takes me to that site. So I can immediately go there and read all about that. Now, Barb, I'm going to be stuck if I can't get out of here.
Just the next step. Yeah, you go.
There I am. And so that's that whole article there. This is, I'm going to have to get a better, I don't know, scanner or what I'm going to do. I'm trying to order an original, but this is the actual immigration records. So from that, I was able to figure out when they left. They left Liverpool on the 6th of April and landed in Halifax on the 14th of April. So I'm guessing they didn't encounter bad weather, but that's actually their records are there. I don't think I can make this bigger. Well, so that's work to be done, but it's there now that shows their immigration record, that when they landed and all the information. It identifies my grandfather's occupation as a farmer, which I found interesting because he was actually a coal miner. But I was reading also that time they didn't allow, they were looking for farmers to come, not coal miners, because they weren't doing that. So he did that. So that's, we can get it there. And there's another picture of that picture of the ship. And then I wrote my story that the four of them, my aunt and uncle and my grandparents, came to Canada on the ship. And then this is some of where my aunt had actually wrote her memoirs. And so in hers, she said they arrived at Halifax on April 12th, traveled by train to Vermilion, arrived on the 29th of April, 1929. Then I included a little more information about the ship. And that's all attached now to that photo. And I'm hoping now when I share with my cousins, they'll remember other stories about, hopefully about, I don't recall being told any stories about what it was like to be on the ship or what it was like to leave.
Kathy, if I may interrupt for a moment, you know, one of the things that may not be obvious is that as you're writing in you've combined several different kinds of media here. One are this, for example, which is a link to your site about the postcards. If you scroll down a little bit, you've got some, there you go. You've got some pictures that you've added in and some copy that you've written. That's all and here you've got, this one is a link to a site that includes that detail. To add that link in, all you did was paste it. Ponga brings in whatever the external content is that's accessible from that remote site. And that's really a key principle across the board. There's the link that you added, and there's the copy that you added. If it was a video, the video would be embedded. If it was a streaming podcast on SoundCloud, it brings in the streaming podcast from SoundCloud. Any kind of external content, it attempts to bring it in if it possibly can. If it can't, you get the preview like you did on this one. You get the thumbnail image and the copy that's provided as a part of the standard HTML.
Also, if I can hitchhike on a comment there, just for all of the Ponga newbies or people who aren't yet members, one of the great things about this is Kathy was talking about, one of the features she likes most is the crowdsourcing element. So she can invite, as a part of her subscription, she can invite unlimited number of guests, hundreds or thousands of people to her library, and she can control the status of each of those individuals. Kathy's the master administrator for her library of photos, so she has ultimate editing rights for anything that goes in there, but she can designate among her invitees who could be a guest that might have view-only privileges. In other words, they can consume the information that she and her friends and family have curated, or she can also give them editorial rights that allows them to add commentary and add their own elements to the storyline as well. And all of this is controlled under complete privacy and security, so there's no external internet access in or out from the people that are using the system.
And that's another feature that I really like, is the ability to do that. I was also going to comment with this photo, because these aren't our photos, but I wanted some pictures of the ship, and I'm hoping to find other little gems written on those postcards, but I can just post pictures of it and attach them all to this one photo. I don't have to have a bunch of photos of the ship that I've got off the internet. I don't have to have that all in separate, loaded up as separate photos or as separate documents, because I really like that. Like when I get into the family pictures, of course, there'll be some where there's a bunch of pictures of the farm, but I really like that I could attach right into this link to the one photo and then not have a bunch more pictures of the ship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying is that for you, this is like a chapter about the ship. And you're pulling, right now, you're pulling all of this other data in as if it's a research element that is about the ship. So right now that you're parking that all in one place, it's convenient that it's one place. It could be 15 different places. It doesn't matter. It's just you get to organize how you want to present it.
And another piece of the story, which is done similarly, this is the British Boys Learn How to Own Your Own Farm in Canada. So if I click on the comments, and again, I added all the comments here. So the Canadian Pacific Railway advertised farm settlement for immigrants as part of this act that they came here under. And grandma or grandpa must have seen these, because that's how he got there, and he always wanted to be a farmer. And so these I love. These aren't, we don't have these anymore. That would have just be like, my heart would stop if I'd been able to find these pamphlets in their stuff. But no, that stuff's been long thrown away. But these are some of the posters that they showed on the Canadian Pacific website. Canada West was actually a magazine that I found out today, written about immigrating to Canada. So it would have on the covers, they were trying to attract people. And initially they were looking for men, obviously. And then they realized that that wasn't really a sustainable model if all you did was have male immigrants. So they decided to see if they could make it more attractive for the women to want to come as well. So this, I keep this in mind, this nice picture for a moment or two.
I'd keep a search out for that on eBay, man. That would be a
Yeah,
treasure.
well, I'm going to start looking at that. And then I talked a little bit about this links to the farm settlement program with CP. And I remembered a story that I was told, that Clarence saw a brochure similar to these images when they were still in England. This is how he decided to come and do this. That is not a photo. This is a link again to the Empire Settlement Act that I mentioned earlier, that if you go to there, you'll find the whole history of it.
Right. By the way, also in regard to things that are, parking things for research purposes, you can also paste in a link that is a Google search link. When you do a search for chair, you'll find, 60 million hits for chair. You can copy that link, paste it in here, and then keep hitting that to see what the latest search turns up. And the same thing for eBay or whatever else, which can be fun.
And because you can delete, as you see this big red delete button, I can delete stuff. So if I've put a note in there, because I just added this today, an hour ago, that they settled on a farm that was under the control of the Hudson's Bay Company, because I need to do more research on that. I know they were Hudson's Bay settlers. They essentially were sharecroppers. They had to give parts of their crop back to the Hudson's Bay. And we have a couple documents of meetings where some of the settlers were refusing to sign their lease documents. But I need to do more research on that, because it seems like an area that might have to actually go to the library or something, because I'm not finding a lot on the internet. I'm just wondering if the Hudson's Bay has kind of put that a little bit under
wraps, huh?
Under wraps a little bit more.
I love that poster. Doing the video, I really started paying attention to that poster in the lower half of it, showing the kind of working, farms in I guess England, right?
Yeah, well, that's probably what it was. Yeah, the city working there, where
right. Or you could be out in the healthy farm.
Now, well, the moment we've all been waiting for. I'll show this one in the comments we've added to this. So this is one of the first pictures I have of them arriving here on the farm.
Could you take a moment, Kathy? Forgive my interrupting. You show them the show hide button so that those boxes can just go away, and
they're gone.
And then the content is all still there, or you can see where they are, because this is one where you actually have multiple boxes on them, and so on, and you make any big or small.
Like, we don't need to actually go to that. You can see the comment. This horse is Tom, and this is Dick, because that was written on the back of this photo. I personally would have written maybe a little more about what was going on in the picture, like this was our trip to the farm, or whatever, but we did right on the back who the horses were. So that's good. So
you can also take a picture of the back of the photo and attach it as a picture.
Too,
also,
which I will have to do with some. So this one, I wrote quite a bit of the story here. Again, this is my aunt writing this, that she said, Elizabeth and their two children and Clarence came from County Durham in England in 1929. They traveled for a month by ship. It was really only 2 weeks. So you can see the perspective of a child. because I'm going to go by the immigration document that it shows it was like 2 weeks, about 10 days. Traveled by ship and by train. The train might have added significantly to that journey. They settled on a Hudson's Bay Company farm 6 miles south of Borrowdale in the Union School District. And the farm was located 22 miles southeast of Vermilion, Alberta. And this is where I further will add when some pictures. My cousins went to the farm. We have the actual land description. So I'll add some of their current photos of what it looked like now, because it was just a bunch of bush now. The houses are all gone. And then this fellow, I had to write this story down, as we've had discussions with which I wish we'd had with before my grandparents or my aunts and uncles were gone, because they probably knew who this was. Whether it's my grandfather or if it's someone from the Hudson's Bay Company that drove the horses and wagon to the farm. I don't think my grandfather would have let him do that, because he was a coal miner. So I'm pretty sure he didn't know how to drive a huge team of horses and a big wagon loaded with stuff. But I'm guessing this is their trip to the farm. And then this is what I got this from Barbara, from some of the pictures she shared. So this box, you think, why is there a box on the wheels of the wagon? So behind the wagon, you can see, if you look carefully, when you look at the picture, I look more carefully, you can see the wheel of a car. And so the story that goes with that, and Hazel wrote a story that they were taken to the farm in a Model T Ford. And so first I thought, I'm thinking like, this doesn't fit the two stories, because that is not the car they are riding on. But then I thought there actually is a car in the back, and if they were leaving the horse and wagon at the farm, because they did get, in addition to their house with if you remember back to those pictures with the picket fences and everything, they did get the horses, and I think they got a cow or something too, and they kept that wagon, because I've been looking for it in other pictures. So it would make sense that maybe they drove out in a car with the family, and that this picture was taken by my grandfather, and that's somebody, or that's my grandfather. The picture quality is so poor and it's so worn and faded that we can't really tell, but we don't think it looks like him. There's no other pictures of him wearing a hat like that, and they wouldn't have been had a ton of clothes they brought with them. So that's for further investigation as well.
Let's jump on the wagon and I'll take a picture so the kids can be photographed. It was probably a pretty big deal to be photographed too.
It was, yeah.
Wow, very cool.
Okay.
That's more about the invisible things in a picture.
In a picture, yeah, which I find really cool too. So if you remember back to the picture of what the farm was going to look like from the CP, this is what the farm actually looked like. It was a little shack on the prairie there. So I haven't written much about this. The photo recognition picked up my grandmother, didn't pick the two kids up, but their faces are pretty much half covered, so I'm not surprised. So
why don't you just zoom in on that so you can see the minimum necessary as a rule of thumb to do a facial recognition is about a 50 by 50 pixel selection box. It's pretty small, but yeah, with a hat down, it's kind of hard to tell.
And it may have actually picked out Alf, and I clicked on the wrong thing. So I might re-upload the picture and just see if it actually picks him out. But Hazel's got her whole face is covered by a hat, so it doesn't surprise me. So that's what I did in a day, which made me quite excited. All these other things I have to give credit where credit is due to Victoria on our call as well. So because she's done such extensive work, I asked her if she could share. She's doing what I want to do. If she could share if she minded sharing with me her Ponga albums, and so that's why there's so much stuff in there that I didn't do. I just did these props.
I was looking at it and thinking, oh, those all look familiar.
Yeah, that all looks through. Oh, we didn't look at this one.
Well, you're actually showing a feature there in terms of a library includes both the pictures that are shared with you and your own.
And this one picked up all the faces. So
go ahead and zoom in so we can see that. There you go. Wow.
Uncle Elf, yeah, and they're pretty. Those are pretty bad. Like if you look at them, those are pretty blurry pictures. So, and Hazel, and then as you mentioned earlier, Barb, making your future research notes. So I just noticed this. Zoom again. This wagon sitting in the background. I'm going to do some comparing with the first wagon to see if it is in fact the same wagon.
Yeah.
There. So.
And you can, I think someone was asking about this earlier, you can put a link from one picture into the other picture. It doesn't embed because the pictures are all private, but you can take a screenshot or the image itself and drag one picture into the other and include a link. When you do that, you include the link without the HTTPS, so it doesn't attempt to do the embed, and it's a nice way to show the connection between the two. Victoria is kind of the master of this with a lot of her album strategy, and that's a very cool way to do it.
I want to take a quick question from Pam regarding facial recognition. So the way this works is, if anybody doesn't really understand how this works, there's a kind of a little bit of a terminology issue here between facial recognition and facial detection. We're actually not implementing facial recognition at this point because we don't do broad searches across large populations of unauthorized data to do recognition of faces against one another. So what we've done is we've done in our implementation as a way of keeping it closed, we do facial detection. Now, facial detection, what it's designed to do is recognize different levels of geometric similarities between the facial figures. So it's not really looking at things that might be detailed like color of eyes or things like that, but rather the relationships between your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your chin, your ears, etc., because those geometry elements largely don't change as you age. And we're probably in the 90% plus accuracy range from, say, the higher single-digit age groups all the way up to probably maybe 70-ish. Once you get too early and too late, there are unique elements of facial geometry that do actually change. But within that scope, we have a very, very high hit rate. Now, the way this works is we ingest all these photos and we organize them based on the facial geometries so that all of the faces of a similar geometry are sequestered into a folder. What you do is you go and name one person. And so if I pick out, I say I've got 1,000 photographs in my library, and I go in there and I name one image, Karen Ray, then what it will do is take all the images of Karen Ray and put her into a folder under her name. It will also recognize all future introductions of any images of Karen into that folder as well. So all you have to do is name Karen once, and it's named pretty much forever for every photo that's in the library. Okay, and it will, like, so if I go in and name of Karen's 1,000 photo library, if I name Karen and she's in 300, it'll take 300, move them over into a folder in her name. If also it happens to be that she has maybe 100 photos where Victoria's in there, then all I have to do is click on Victoria's face, name her, and those 100 photos of Victoria will then be sequestered into a folder under Victoria's name as well. That way you can very quickly find those people that you're interested in, and then use that as a way of very quickly navigating into the photos that you want to explore for curation purposes. Does that answer your question, Pam? Maybe too much, but okay.
So that's what I've done so far. I wish I didn't have to work now, so I could just play in it there. I might have to retire soon, but I find that the program incredibly easy to use. I hate to admit it, but I'm not the person who gets and watches all of the videos first. I just blunder in and see what I can figure out. And then I go back and look for, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I better figure this out. It's very easy to do, very, very easy to use. It takes to me, takes the burden or the effort out of telling the stories behind the pictures.
That's the idea.
Which I think slows down most people from getting this done. And the crowdsource, like those two pieces, the ease of you telling the stories and also being able to easily get people to collaborate so everything's in one place. The other thing I didn't mention, that Barbara Cameron haven't mentioned yet either, is the ability to link to photos that are stored in other online photo storage sites like permanence.org, Forever. You can link if you don't want to put every single photo, like you're already using got photos somewhere else, if you want to link to a safe and secure online storage site, that the capability is there. You can put a link in. So I may not put every single photo into my Ponga. I might, you never know. But I will be able to link back. So I'll use my client for an example. I'm probably not going to put every single photo they have because my client can't possibly talk about all that much stuff, but I'll put some very significant ones in, and then I'll link back to the location of them stored in their case, it'll be in a forever account. I'll link back to theirs for people to go see the rest of the photos that relate to that event, because some of their events will be playing.
And there's a few ways to do that linking. And once you start thinking about it as just like the web, right? The ability to link anywhere that makes sense, that tells the rest of the story, that fills it in or provides useful resources. For a given picture, you can provide links in the description. Here it says Hodgson Family Homestead. You can have a link in there to some other article that was written about that, or as you say, the repository of all of the rest of the images that you have. You can also put those kinds of links into comments themselves.
Yeah, it probably bears mentioning, since we're on this topic, that we, as I said at the outset, and I think as Kathy's putting a fine point on right now, we're really focused on the storytelling elements about curating the histories around the photos and collaborating and sharing with other people. Now, having said that, we don't position ourselves as a storage, photo storage facility. There's other people that do that really well, and they have, laundry list of features and capabilities that you may or may not want to take advantage of as it relates to the idea of certain types of storage, whether it be, using a nonprofit like permanent.org because of the characteristics that they have as a nonprofit versus Forever or any of the other storage mechanisms that are out there. But it does bear us mentioning that we don't charge for storage. So you pay a monthly membership or an annual membership, and we don't care whether you put 10 photos in there or 10,000, because we don't charge you for storage. We don't charge you for the numbers of photos that you put in there. We repository them in there as a convenience factor for you to be able to get to them quickly and easily and have them as part of your taxonomy as you're organizing your storytelling. But if you want to link out to another storage facility via these photos, we're happy to facilitate that.
The other thing I like, which is just one of my pet peeves, is that I can label, which differs from what we do as professionals where we're trying to add metadata to the photo. So metadata is basically what you used to write on the back of a photo, if anyone's not familiar with the term, but you're adding the date, the subject, and a description. Well, some of these descriptions I'm writing that would be a lot to put in the description metadata field. And also most programs allow you to add metadata, won't allow you to add a fuzzy date. And a fuzzy date is where you don't actually know the date. So I can write 1930, or I can write 1930 June because it looks like summer, or I can write the exact date. There's ways to work around that in metadata programs, but all of them involve setting up some kind of a system that you're going to use to keep it consistent, so that you're either using zeros. Quite a few programs won't let you use zeros for the information that you don't know. That's what I'll be doing. Is I threw that one in as 1930, but I'm going to have to go back and make sure. But if I don't know, I will guess, because luckily in Alberta, if there's no snow on the ground, we can tell a limited amount of months that might have occurred in, versus if there's snow on the ground, I can get a closer date. Or I could put the exact right date in there if I have it. So I like that flexibility, because it bothers me to use some kind of a standard, even if I say, okay, if I don't know the month, I'll just write January and the date, like January 0101, because what happens if I actually have some pictures from that date? How do I know which are which? So I like being able just to say, yeah, I don't know when this picture was taken. And some of them may get a whole decade because I don't know when they were taken. So I like that feature too, among my list of favorite things. So it gives you, I think, more time to focus on the story than on the maybe technical things. You can write the date and what it is in the story very easily without having to use another whole program to attach all that other information to it. As professional photo organizers, that's what we do. We offer that service, but it's time consuming, expensive, and I find it sometimes halts my clients from actually telling the stories.
Right.
And if I have a bunch of people sitting around a Christmas tree and the date's the 25th of December of some year, I'd rather know about who got what, who was there at Christmas, than having it described as, having it tagged as Christmas and the date on it, because I kind of already knew that. I want to know who those people were. I want to know what they were doing, like who wasn't there at Christmas. Why not? And all those stories. So I love it. We're carrying on. I think I don't know if you shared that teaser, if I did, Barb. I've got a picture of my grandfather and my grandmother sitting outside.
Go
in a
ahead.
chair, and he is wearing a military uniform. And so that's the next part of the story, because farming in Alberta apparently in the 1930s wasn't that great, as it wasn't very many places in North America because of the Depression. So he actually enlisted in the Canadian Army in World War II, and that will be another whole chapter of stories to tell. And I think that it goes back to Barb's point about our stories are part of history, because he links to history. They link to history through the Hudson's Bay Company settler. I didn't know we had sharecroppers in Alberta. When I first learned this about, that's essentially what my grandparents did. I knew they had a farm at some point and left it. My grandfather guarded German prisoners of war in World War II. Pam's going like, what? Just about an hour away from here in Calgary in Kananaskis Provincial Park. That's another whole story that a lot of people just, they go by and they wonder, I wonder what the heck that weird thing that looks like a guard tower is, and then they continue on their skiing and horseback riding and all the other things to do there. But there's a whole story about that, about what that camp, and that camp has a big history. So, and I have a ton of lovely pictures that that he took or people took of him in the mountains at that camp. So there's all those stories to come.
That's fabulous. Hey, Barb, a couple questions coming in. I kind of missed them, quite frankly, because it's Barbara Tien to Barbara Tien, I think. I'm not really sure who asked this question without the name change on the.
I see those, and I'm plowing away trying to answer these. As I answer them, the short answer for all of these is that we have a number of FAQs that answer some of these frequently asked questions, and I'm also getting you links to our tips blog, for example. There's been a few questions about different kinds of materials that you can add into a Ponga picture. And I have a sample. The short answer is you paste a link. That's basically the answer. But I walk through the subtle points of different kinds of media in an article that is essentially 12 kinds of content that you can add to a Ponga picture. You can always get there from tips.ponga.com and scroll halfway down the page. But I've also added that link in here for you. And well, since I'm not coughing and I've got the floor, I'll go ahead and answer the other questions faster than I could type, relating to what about metadata? So what about metadata? It is a common question, and I thank you, Kathy, for hitting on why that is important and completely valid in terms of how people are managing their original files. We have so much respect for that point that what we do is if you bring us a 40 meg TIFF file that's chock full of very carefully curated metadata, that's great. We make a working copy of that file and archive the original. You want your original back with all of that metadata, that's exactly what you get back. Because what we're working with is a working copy where we give you this magic ability to zoom in and out on quickly and easily by tiling and all of the content that's associated with the individual selection areas within the image. And all of that content is also available to you because we're not stuffing it into the image itself. We are keeping it associated with very specific pixel regions. So if you record a voice, you don't want to lose that voice recording. That recording's still there. In fact, you can right click and download the file itself because we believe that's super important. So those are always protected into the private archives. That was a quickie. What else do we have?
I got a question here, Barb, about contrasting us a little bit from Memory Web.
Yeah, a good question, very much in the context of metadata. Memory Web is a very interesting software. It gives you a lot of creative ways to be able to add, in particular, be able to add metadata into an image that's kept together, and they have a nice way to be able to export that. That's fine if what you're talking about is a model around the image file itself. Our model is quite different. Instead of focusing on the image file as a way to change and manage how you manage those image files, we're centered on the story. We will make it easy, quick and easy to organize your pictures based on people, and then let you get into the storytelling. Your file remains a file. If you've configured it all up with Memory Web, that's great. We'll keep that file exactly the way it is. But as Cameron was saying, we're not really in the storage business. We're in the story business. So we want to give you a way to take that image and then share it out with your 86-year-old great aunt and talk her through and record her going on Zoom and have her tell you the stories, capture that video, and then link that video directly into your picture. So you have those live stories together. That's our perspective. Wow. So this is a very different way of doing these Zoomin sessions, and we are very tightly to the time, which was one of the key things that we wanted to try to accomplish and not go too far over, particularly given the furthest corners of the earth that we have brought together for this very brief purpose. I wanted to get you all an update also about how we've been doing these. We've had these sessions, but we realize there's also some real value in having the more directly interactive Q&A kinds of sessions in a smaller group. So next month on the 27th of August, and I'll get you an update to the Zoomin page and a follow-up email to this, we're going to do that one as just a directly interactive session, and we'll sort of see how many people sign up, and we may even need to create breakout sessions if it's too big. But we also have we'll be introducing something we're calling Ponga Zoomin on Demand, or Ponga Zoomin Pods. So many people have come to us saying, you know, I'm trying to organize these 25, was it Victoria? Different people, family members, all to come in, and I can't get everybody to all be on the same page about when and how we're going to do this. You know, it's hard to herd cats, and I know about herding cats. So the trick is to give them a little catnip and or snacks. So we're going to provide you a means to do that by offering these pods. We'll give you a tool called Doodle to allow everybody to kind of synchronize on a time, and a time within our 12-hour window, and help you to bring everybody together on a plan. And also offer a Ponga, Ponga tour, Ponga Zoomin session at your preference. That's all free because we know what it takes to get everybody together and really to get the most out of this. So that would be a fun thing to be able to do, and I look forward to hosting several of those. These are some of our favorite times to really get to understand how to get the most out of this, but also what it is that will make the most use for you.
Though I want to offer up, because I think we have a preponderance of professional photo management type people here. And so one of the things I wanted to address is that in the context where Kathy has kind of a dual use purpose, she's using this not only for her own pictures and family histories as well, but she also, as a professional photo organizer and manager, has clients that she is using the platform for organizational purposes, content curation, and in some cases curating some of those stories that are hard to grab when you're doing these type of projects. So one of the things I wanted to make sure that we mentioned, that should any of you want to use the facility to do that and then transfer over the membership to one of your clients, let us know, and we'd be happy to facilitate that kind of a scenario, so that depending on what your final project is, whether it's a book or a hard copy or a very select, very tight distribution of stories and photos, you have this now rich research content that you might use Ponga for as a place to collect and repository this stuff. If you want to provide your client access to that later as a part of your service, then we'd be happy to figure out how to get that done for you. Okay. Now, as far as the membership goes, it's $9 a month or $99 a year. We do have occasional promotional activity, both through our partners, which could be scanning companies or some of the photo organization elements. We work with somebody that you all might know the name of, Kathy Nelson, and we'll be doing some promotional and merchandising activity with her over the ensuing months. And so, hopefully that's a price point that makes sense to you guys. And you can get access to all that information on the website. Just go to www.ponga.com. I've also included a link here to some additional resources that you might want to take a look at tips.ponga.com, which is a place that you can get access to some of the best practices from some of our members, as well as tips and tricks and just in terms of things that we've published as it relates to the usability of the system. There's obviously some kind of what we call professional hacks in there about managing and manipulating the system, as well as just basic use cases. I hope all this was helpful to everybody. We didn't hear questions from everybody. So
I'll make is that this is right up there in the top of customer support from Ponga. It is Victoria and some of the other people using it. This is just wonderful. So, and that's really important too. And tools I choose to use or software programs I choose to use is the helpfulness, and they're here for you night and day.
I would agree. I would agree. This is the gold standard of customer service. It's absolutely the best.
On behalf of Audie and myself, thank you.
Wow, that's great.
You're welcome.
That's fantastic. I'm actually choked up by all that support. Thank you guys for that.
Yeah,
we do kind of pride ourselves on a high touch support process, primarily because we understand, because of how we came to Ponga, what kind of an effort this is. When you commit to do this, this is not just, you roll over in bed one morning and say, you know what, I think I'll start one of these kind of projects. It's typically something that you're going to invest some time, some emotion, some communication, a lot of intimacy with the photographs, in some cases, maybe just a lot of research. And we want to make sure that if you get stuck or you have a question or you want to know, God, Kathy mentioned that thing in that session we went to, and we'll send you a recording of the session if you want. If you want to go back to a place where you can say, oh yeah, she said that, we got that. Or if you just want to say, okay, I hit a speed bump here, or I have got this creative idea about a different way to use the system, we'll be right there for you. You just call us and we'll be back to you immediately with a question. Frequently, we will jump on the phone with you and do a demo of the product right then and there. And as Barb mentioned, we also do small group work. So if you want to set up a custom Zoom like this, either for a genealogy group, a photo management group, maybe you're doing a project with a large family and the large extended family has lots of information, we can help you kick those projects off by getting all those people on a Zoom call and helping them work through exactly the best way to utilize the system. So we're there for you. You just got to ask. Did everybody get questions answered? Did we leave you guys with outstanding things? I took an action item from Alan as a follow-up, and I'll make sure that we get to him really quickly. Pam, Ponga's been around. We've been working on our platform and our project now for probably 3 years. We showed up at Roots Tech a couple of years ago because this started out as a very important project for the 4 founders as it related to very personal journeys that we had about how we arrived at the requirements for this system. And we thought, okay, this is great. We're going to put this cool little thing together for a very small cohort of people that think this is important. Well, lo and behold, we start to do market research. We go to a couple of Roots Techs and we figure out, oh my God, this is like a universal problem. So it went much beyond what we originally envisioned. And so as we were developing the architecture for the system, we started to think of, okay, we need world-class security. We need scalability. We need the ability to have a good user interface. We got to make sure we have world-class support. So we started to add all those capabilities over the prior 3 years. We actually, without a product last year, went to Roots Tech and demoed the capabilities in a very kind of beta sense. And then this past Roots Tech, we kind of announced ourselves and we released our product kind of consistent with the ending of the Roots Tech, which was what, end of February, beginning of March, something like that. So we've really been in market only for a couple of months now. And we haven't done lots of what I would call aggressive marketplace outreach because we've been kind of doing this small with what we consider to be a small cohort of not only folks like you. We have some handpicked people that we've asked to come along, and we're looking for people to use the product and give us feedback. So we've kind of done a soft launch, and we're getting great feedback for the product. We've actually taken a lot of the feedback from people, some of which are on this call, and made appropriate product adjustments based on their feedback. So we're pretty excited. We hope you guys think the product is neat and worth investing in, and we're looking forward to welcoming you all as members.
Hey, thanks very much for this webinar. This has been really informative. I did want to say that it seems like there needs to be an easier way to immediately be able to go and see like a demo page, even if it's just simple structure available of going to see how the system works and a basic example of here's an album or here's what a few pictures would look like. I understand it's set up on the invitation system, but just as far as browsing the network, because I've gone to this site before, but I never really, to be honest, and nothing against you guys, I'm very happy with what you're doing, but the hurdle of just saying, oh, I've got to send for an invitation, and no, I couldn't do that. Just having a simple page as an example would, I think, be able to get more people involved and interested much easier. That's all, but thanks very much. I'm very interested in the
No, Alan, that's great feedback. You know, it's always a complicated thing about, do we want to do it with a video? Do we want to actually show a demo where maybe Barb is walking through the product and we do an over-the-shoulder thing? We're still toying with our website. And so that's good input because we kind of refresh our website content on a periodic basis. And as we do that, we're obviously trying to evolve this to a degree where when somebody hits our website, we want to be able to serve up what they want right away. So thanks for that input. We will definitely, I just took a note about that. We'll write that down, and Barb and I will think about that afterwards about the best way to implement something like that.
Sure, thanks.
Pam, great question. Pam asked, do you foresee an ability to reward folks who spread the word? So the answer is yes, we foresee that. Barb and I have been toying around with about anywhere between 6 and 12 different types of models of making that work. If anybody has any specific ideas of a model that you think would be particularly appealing to you, or something that you think makes most sense, we've thought about it from a frequent usage perspective. We've thought about it in terms of number of invites. We've thought about it in terms of numbers of subscriptions that our partners help us aggregate over the period of time. We've even thought about it, you know, in terms of usage. Do we want to reward people who are, you know, doing something very specific and very unique, or maybe have the most photos? So there's a lot of things that we're toying around with, but the answer is absolutely yes. For lack of a better term, we're going to have some kind of a frequent flyer reward program for our customers that help us spread the word, number one, and two, show significant use case where we want people that push the envelope a little bit, right? Because that helps push us to make a better product. And so to the best of our ability, we would like to make sure that the people that are helping us through this process get rewarded. And so we've even thought about, you know, do we throw in a free month of service for every subscription based on all this stuff? So I'd really appreciate, anybody who's been on the product knows how to get to our support chatbot. Is that correct or no? If you don't, then we'll make sure, you know, maybe Barb, if it's easy to toss a link in there while I'm talking, that would be great. But any input that you guys have about ways that you would like to see this, please get them to us, because, you know, we look at this thing sometimes on a forest and trees basis, right? So we're thinking about it from our point of view outward. It's actually much more valuable for you guys to give us input. You know, sometimes we ask for that, and a lot of people will say, Jesus, don't do that. Don't go ask the marketplace what they want, because you get 1,000 different answers. You won't know what to do, etc. But frankly, Barb and I come from a long technology service here in the Bay Area, and we come from a predisposition of listening to our customer base. And so I don't mind sorting through 1,000 pieces of input, because frankly, that's a really, really valuable thing to do. So please keep the ideas coming. I can't guarantee you that we'll use your idea, but I guarantee that your idea will get discussed and get evaluated and put into context with every idea we get. And we'll probably choose 1 or 2 different mechanisms, and you'll probably see an announcement over the next couple of months. All right, terrific. So we have another meeting, as Barb said, in August. Everybody that participated here, we will be communicating with you just to keep you updated on what's going on. We'll let you know when future sessions come out. Please don't be shy. Ping us. If you try and use the system like Alan did and maybe ran into a little bit of a roadblock, send a note. We'll get right on it. Okay. I hope we answered everybody's questions. I want to give a very special shout out and thanks to Kathy for sharing her stories and her process and the way she does things. Yes, thank you. Great applause, Kathy. Appreciate all of the support and kind of showing how you're leveraging the system. So with that, thank you very much for everybody attending. We'll look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.